Whatever.
Hey Lee, can you hear me?
I can hear you guys.
Can you hear me? Hey, I'm hearing some nice jazzy music here.
You want to turn it off or keep it going or?
Are we good? Are we live? Are we good?
Yeah, we're
Testing.
live. We're live. Yeah.
Nice, nice, man, nice. What's
Okay.
going
So
on, Lee? Been a while,
I'm
man.
good. Yeah. No, it's good. It's good to talk to you, man. I know this is going to be about W chain, and welcome, Raphael, to the
That's it,
chat
man.
too.
Let's talk
But
WChan.
yeah. So what led you to W chain? What led me here is I've watched a lot of small caps over the years, and
Mm,
it has a lot of attributes in this crypto that that I've seen that are bullish from other cryptos that are similar. A lot of similarities with this crypto that are bullish, and yeah, I know that you know a lot about the inner workings of WCO and the chain itself. So um, if you
yeah.
want to give a little short introduction, it's fine. I'm down. Like
No, man,
and
just
some
fire away,
yeah
dude. You can just fire away, man. Any questions? Let's just like see where this goes because
yeah
it
yeah
seems that, from the news today, that there's still this kind of like, I don't know, confusion is the right word. I'm not sure. Maybe we should explore it a little bit because, we're seeing, the price action all-time low, right?
yeah
And we're seeing, behavior that might resemble some things that you've seen before, Lee, right? With like your Gala,
yeah
Sologenic, etc. So if fire
yeah
away, man. If you've got questions, and we see where it goes.
yeah. It's just I just I've been in the space for 8 years now, and it just reminds me of SHX so much back in the day when they were actually under legal investigation to be a scam, and
Mm,
that had four zeros and a three, and I was watching the company closely. Like, why are they hiring 10 executives, but they're also under investigation for scam, and why is the price
mm,
crashing?
mm.
It reminds me so much about W Chain because isn't I just saw yesterday that they have a new position hired. They're hiring a new guy for like 7,000 a month, like some Web3 guy,
Yes, the marketing
and
guy
that's
in
literally
Singapore. Yeah,
yesterday. Yeah, well, Watts
yeah,
Pay's doing that,
yeah,
and that's in Singapore. So like that shows me that despite the price action, we still have a lot of bullish things company wise going on here. And
yeah,
I, I
yeah,
I'm an investor personally. I invest in mini cryptos, but this is one that I'm keen on because of these the fear and the uncertainty around the project. And
hmm,
if you watch the company closely and know what the chain does, it solves a lot of problems. I think you know more about that. Um,
yeah, yeah. Like
yeah,
the proposition of pay for anything with anything is very powerful, and we're seeing a lot of the front end UIs coming out, and allowing people to do certain things, but allowing people to pay for anything with anything or transfer any asset to another asset is very powerful. And I think probably it's a tricky project, right? I think the team, WChain, Anish, whoever you want to call it, they've kept things close knit, right? They
hmm
haven't wanted to share what's actually going on. So how do you pay for anything with anything, right? I don't
hmm
think people ask these questions, but actually, if you dig into it about how it actually happens, it's very powerful. And there's WChain has a very unique proposition um, to allow this, right? So if you're a user on Telegram and you have Dogecoin, right?
hmm
And you've got someone on the other side that says, look, I only want to receive you know, let's say another meme coin, right? This Aura coin, whatever it is, right? Or, another
yeah,
coin. How do you actually facilitate that? Because, Doge and Aura doesn't have a natural pair on any exchange, right? They're just not going to have that. If it does, it'd be highly illiquid. So, WChain's proposition is saying, look, we can do that transfer. And in the front end, it looks like it's one transaction, but actually behind the scenes, there's maybe two or even three transactions going on, right? And I think that this is really not really understood by many people. mainly because the team haven't shared it, right? And we can get into
Yeah.
that, right? Why the team haven't shared this. But yeah, the value proposition is very powerful. We see Coinbase, Base, making moves in the last few days. Many, all the front end guys are making moves now, right? But it's only for that first step, which is, yeah, okay, USDC, pay with USDC. That's it, right? It's
Yeah.
it's limited, right? And so that's nothing new. But being able to say, hey, actually, you can pay with Dogecoin if you want, or you can pay with any asset, you can receive any asset, you can gamble with any asset, you can give to charity with any asset. All these, it's very, very powerful. And I think probably just my view is that the market isn't ready for this, right? I remember when the initial news came out around, I think the name of the guy was Pav, and he said, we'll allow anybody to pay for anything with anything. That was on, I think it was one of the Asian banker um, website. And I think,
Yeah.
he didn't explain how they were going to do that. And I think if he did at that time, it's too soon. It was just too soon, trying to explain technology that's probably going to come out, maybe back into this year or next year, which would have been, 3, 4 years prior to when, what's his face said it, Pav said it. The market wasn't ready, and maybe it would have just seemed too ridiculous, too unbelievable. I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
it's very clear that we're moving to a world now where you can pay for anything with anything, and WChain will
Yeah.
facilitate that. Now, the technology, as we discussed, yeah, the value proposition is fantastic. Now, probably what's more of interest to the people is, what's going on with the team, right? What's
Yeah.
going on with Anish? What's going on with the marketing people, etc. So yeah, I know I've rambled on a bit
No,
there,
I just
Lee,
want
and
to
I
stop
do.
you for a second. You're
Yeah,
talking about pay for anything with anything. Are you talking about the debit cards, the prepaid debit cards, the Winity cards?
yeah. You mean
Yeah.
Winity?
So
Yeah, you'll do that with Winity, but also without the card. WChain will
yeah.
facilitate that.
Yeah. It's just the you're talking about W chain is the infrastructure that you need to because it is enterprise grade and it's KYC compliant with the government. That's what it's required for the prepaid cards to pay for things with the
Yeah,
on
and
chain, like in
just
real
on that,
life.
Lee,
Yeah. Yeah.
Anish spent a number of years, telling the community, I'm in Brazil, I'm in,
Mm-hmm. Oh, we're losing connection for a second.
and
I guess.
sorry, I think I lost you
Yeah.
there.
Oh yeah.
What was he actually doing? I think that it was around this compliance element to the payments piece, right? So in every jurisdiction that he's in, there has to be this KYC compliant element, and I think him traveling around the globe last few years is he's been doing that, laying the groundwork for that, right? So if you're off ramping or whatever in Brazil, or I think there was a few South American companies that Anish tweeted about back in, excuse me, 22, 23. And I think that's all to do with this compliant KYC element as they kind of, you know, have users in Brazil or wherever it might be, right, globally. So I think they've been laying the groundwork for a long, long time.
Yeah. And everything takes time, and with the compliance and the regulatory environment of these coins. We were talking about the delays. Like people are upset about the delays with W Chain recently, but we've
Hmm.
experienced that with Flare Networks. They delayed
Mm,
for 2 years before the
mm,
airdrop happened.
mm,
And so it's something that's not. It's I've seen it before, and look at Flare Networks now. It's booming. F
mm,
assets is going live. So it's just like that. I believe they have their niche in the market, like you say, with with connecting everything. With It's funny because Flare says connect everything, but they're actually doing it on chain. You're gonna be able. Didn't you say something like it's the cheapest way, and the fastest, like 10,000 TPS or something? And
yeah, yeah,
you
and
probably know more about that. Like the
yeah, and
settlement
like,
on chain and using AI and all that. Like you can probably know more
yeah,
like
there's
the routing.
there's
The
a
routing. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. You know more.
yeah, me too, man.
Some idea.
There's a lot of things there.
Yeah.
Like we could kick off with
Yeah.
like, when people say, oh, it's interoperability, right? There's different kinds of interoperability. Like
Yeah.
Chainlink's interoperability is very different to WChain's interoperability, right? So that's one thing. But yeah, I think what we could see, with WChain is like, yeah, like a router that uses AI to say, okay, what's my cheapest way to send a token from here on this particular network? So I've got Dogecoin, right? What's the cheapest way I can
Yeah.
get this token of value, and how do I get that to, USDC on Solana, right? And so you have AI to, basically find that, be it through the dexes, be it through bridging. It's basically like, these are your options, right? You can swap it, you can bridge it. I think those are probably your main options, right? So
Yeah.
how do you do that, right? So WChain is there to facilitate this, right? So, but in order to do that, you have to have like a lot of liquidity, right? And that's what we're seeing with things like PancakeSwap, building up the liquidity. You see with Mexi, building up the liquidity, right? So all these dexes are making their chains very fast and efficient. Look at the Maxwell hard fork coming on BNB end of this month. In fact, they did a hard fork last month, but it probably wasn't quick enough. So they're like, fuck, do another one. Um, you've got like the likes of Mexi. Yeah, these guys are the exchanges are making moves because they know that, in my view, right, that W chain's coming, and so they got to make this very liquid in order to make the transaction cheap. Because let's say 5 years ago you had Dogecoin and you tried to get it to, yeah, USDC on Solana, man, that must have been a pain in the ass, and you're probably
Hmm.
down 20%, right? Like, I don't know, I'm just making numbers, but it's not cheap to
Yeah.
do that, right? So, in order to make it cheap, like, everyone's kind of got to come together. And, like, you look at Mexi and you think, why are Mexi promoting Solana, right?
Yeah.
You think, like, what's going on there? But when you realize that, hold on a minute, Dogecoin just made a deal with, I think it's Wormhole, to bridge onto Solana. Mexi are
Yeah.
trying to make everything as liquid as possible. Mexi, they list WChain, right? They were part of the Firestarter or Kickstarter, whatever it was. There's more to it than meets the eye. And I think that's what people struggle with, right? WChain is like trying to build something that they, someone like Anish has probably already visualized in his head. Like, I already know how this is going to work. But like, people have to catch up, the market has to catch up, right? And that's why, the likes of like PancakeSwap making things liquid, even Uniswap have gone through big changes, right? Recently, all the main L1s have gone through big changes, and I don't think that's by accident, because they
You
know
said
that. Yeah, go on.
so you said they're going through these changes just for W chain, basically. It's like what it's got for W chain. It's giving the perfect opportunity for W chain to step in and use their
Basically, yes.
products.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Okay.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so, yeah, because when we talk about like payments and, P2P and all this kind of stuff, it kind of it's a coordinated effort, right, by all these guys. Like, think I might be wrong here, but I'm sure CZ had some involvement in an ETH or vice versa back in the day, right? There was
Yeah.
always some sort
Yeah.
of collaboration, and now what I'm seeing is that the collaboration is deepening in the space to make this happen, right? Like, PancakeSwap now, I think you can trade with like 16 chains, whatever it is, right? And they're all like working together to make it seamless and slick and this and that for, yeah, in my eyes, WChain to come in and say, yeah, we can facilitate all of this because we're gonna complete like the trades in a compliant way, right? Like, it's a payment if it's like at the merchant, if it's just like on a Telegram, for example, even through like WhatsApp or whatever it may be, there has to be this compliant element, right? Because ultimately,
Yeah.
governments, etc., they care about like AML, KYC, terrorist financing, blah 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 blah. It's the boring stuff, but I think from WChain's perspective, it's like arguably the key selling point here, right? Because if you don't have that, no one's gonna do this like and take it seriously at scale.
I wanted to stop. So you said all this news has come out just the past couple months. It's
Yeah.
all relatively new. Like you're saying, like all this infrastructure being changed, and Mexi and all this stuff, and also the nodes. They're running nodes right now on W chain, Mexi and Bitrue.
I
So
mean, that's
that's
what we hear.
confirmed.
That's
Yeah,
what we
that's
hear.
confirmed as well.
That's what we hear, right? I mean,
So they're supporting the
there's a
network.
100 group. There's a
Yeah.
100 group, and that's been said in there, right? We don't know. I mean, we don't know for sure, right? But
Yeah.
that's what we hear. So, and to me, it makes sense because if you're an exchange like Mexi, you want to run an, I'm not technical by the way, but like, yeah, if you're running a node on W chain and for example, you're providing deep liquidity on Mexi's DEX, right, which is connected to say like Radium, uh,
Yeah,
and there's another DEX. I think they have an agreement with BNB chain. In fact, Mexi have an agreement with BNB chain, right? So
yeah,
in order to like do a swift, quick transaction, they have to validate like everything that's going on, right? So you run a node here, you run a node there. It can just be an RPC node, right? It have to be a full validator node. So to me, right, it's a no-brainer that these sexes and dexes they're gonna be running nodes on W chain. It just makes sense to me, right? But I don't know, right? There's still questions to be. We don't fully understand W chain yet. That's the thing, right? And that
yeah,
will come out at some point. But I think, yeah, these guys running nodes on there it just makes sense.
yeah. And ChatGPT gives a lot of information about all of this. You could just ask it yourself, you guys, if just
Mm,
talk. You can ask it anything, and it's just that's where a lot of this information comes from. Uh, my friend Giga and I would talk about with ChatGPT, and it just gives you. It's been just recently, the past few weeks, it got smarter, and and is giving us more information, and not only that, but it's just stuff we see online, articles, talking
mm,
about it. It's and plus, the inner workings of it better than I do. I'm just more of a objective investor, and I see the fear around the project, and I think it's going to do something. So that's pretty much what everybody thinks, and
mm,
I have a lot of experiences with dexes. I've played with Stellar X, and this new token coming out is called Wave Token. It's going to be like the Aqua Rewards token, which is built on XLM. That's what
mm,
they use on Stellar X to stake. If you want to stake your USDT for slash XLM for liquidity, you will
mm.
get Aqua Rewards, and I think that's what that attracts a lot of whales and a lot of people with just, or you could stake USDC, just USDC pair.
Mm.
Or if they've also didn't they say they're going to create their own stable coin?
Yeah, yep,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
think
I
that
think
I
the
think that's the
stable
goal.
coin
Yeah,
well, the stable coin will come in, I think, in certain jurisdictions where like
yeah,
USDC and USDT are not operating, so they just plug the gap with their own stable coin. By the way, Lee, just to mention,
yeah,
right? Ask the question yourself, right? Why is Bitrue okay? Bitrue is the biggest holder of WCO, right?
exactly. Yeah,
Be it that a lot of it
2
is
billion.
like
Yeah, 2 billion.
people's tokens on the exchange, but I think look, they've got a lot themselves, right? Why are they suddenly collaborating with Algorand, who are very closely affiliated with Wadzchain? Why are they suddenly offering staking rewards on Algorand? Why are they suddenly offering staking rewards on XDC, who are also closely
Yeah,
affiliated with Wadzchain? These are not coincidences, right?
yeah,
But you have to look at the bigger picture, and I get it, man. Most people, with all respect, they're not gonna have that bigger picture thinking. It's just like you just look what it says on the tin, and it's just like not doing anything. But if you look at the bigger picture, right? Wadspace have always had an affiliation with XDC, whether you like it or not, from either community, like there is an affiliation there, right? And
yeah,
ultimately, the way I see it is that W chain will facilitate XDC's RWAs in the sense that you've got an RWA and XDC. They need to switch that value over to, I don't know, it could be anywhere, right? Like BNB, whatever. W chain will be that router. Now, it's not
yeah.
coincidence that BitTrue, who are the biggest holder, are now offering big staking rewards for XTC, big staking rewards for Algorand. This is
Because
not coincidence. This is not a coincidence
the only
because
way they can get rewards is probably through that Wave Token.
who's that?
Or the only they'd have to give the rewards on the decks. That's what you're saying.
No, no, no,
Like,
no. I'm not
oh
saying
no,
that. I'm
no.
not talking about Wave. I'm just talking generally
Okay.
about BitTrue making
Oh, okay.
moves with Wadzpair,
And
known
XDC.
partners
Yeah.
in the
Okay.
history,
Yeah.
XDC, Algorand.
XDC overrun. Yeah.
Why? I mean, again, I'm not a technician here, right? But if you're staking, if you're Bitrue and I think Bitrue run nodes on XRP, that's for sure, right? I mean, XRP is probably a better example,
Yeah.
but
It's known
if
as
you're
the
running,
XRP Hangout. It's the XRP Army Hangout. It's a bit true.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So like,
Yeah.
running node on, I mean, XRP and WChain, for example, there's clear benefits there, right? From Bitru's perspective, right? They want to make sure that the transaction is smooth. It's like nothing wrong with it, right? So they just run nodes on both chains, right? Like it just makes sense to me. But anyway,
It makes
yeah,
a
I just
lot of
wanted to
sense.
highlight that. I just wanted to highlight that moves are being made, even though it's not directly related to WChain. You think, well, what's Bitru and Algorand got to do with Wadzchain WChain, right? On the face of it, you think this doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, who cares? But actually, there's a lot more to it because the assets that are going to be like created on those L1s, those they need to be routed across the global ecosystem, right? How are they going to
Yeah.
do that? The XDC CTO, oh, no, the XSwap CTO came out and said, "Yeah, we can't do that in one swap. Yeah, you got to break it down, do it into three swaps." Even so,
Oh, I'm sorry. You still connected? Hold on. We got a little glitch there. Uh, Hold on. Like you lost connection, guys, for a second. Let's get Giga Chad back on. And I'm trying to invite him to speak here. Uh, Give me. It's a little technical difficulties. Give me 30 seconds. Um, I hope you guys are enjoying the chat here. Hope you guys are enjoying the chat. We're gonna get him back in. He knows a whole lot about this stuff, and gonna add him back here. Let's see here. Oops. Well, they're not. Can't find them. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Thanks for listening. I'm trying to get my friend back here. To back to the spaces. You back on, back on. It's okay. Just the Matrix attack, man. No big deal.
that's it. I don't know where we left it at, but yeah.
Yeah, man. No, it's just we're just talking about how all this news is correlating for a release of the W Chain's products.
Correct,
It's like
correct.
wow.
Because,
That's what's
dude,
interesting to me. Yeah.
like, think about it. None of the L1s out there, none of them out there have any way to say, yeah, you can pay for anything with anything. They just can't do it, right? So, look, people find this very unpopular, but that day that Anish was in the Ferrari, he was being celebrated like a hero. Why? People think, oh, he was selling tokens and he bought a Ferrari.
Yeah,
It's like it's so funny, dude. But the deeper thing is, I think the reality is right is that at that time, whoever is coordinating with WChain, WhatsApp, the powers that be, whatever you want to call it, right? They knew at that point that Anish had provided a solution that will last for a very long time, and I think they were celebrating that he's done it. But of course, you celebrate at the time when it's going to happen. Like to implement this takes years, and clearly it has, right? Like that was in 2 years ago, maybe. So to me,
yeah,
it's like whatever, man. The FUD's talking just garbage, right? But they were celebrating him as a person because what he's doing is very powerful.
yeah.
And
Even getting that.
we
Yeah. I'm
sorry,
sorry.
go ahead.
I'm thinking of the shout out from Bob from Nasdaq, who's never shouted out a crypto before in his career. Gave Anish a
Yeah,
shout out, and that made
that's it, man.
yeah. So
The
I
gem
don't think
guys,
yeah,
even the
yeah,
gem guys gave the What's Big guys a shout out when they got the 37 mil like promise when they got IPO. He's very well known, man, but
yeah,
people have how should we put it, like short-sightedness. And it's easy to get distracted because if you say like right now what is W chain, you think, well, there's nothing here. It's just a chain, tokens moving around. it's easy to get blindsided, right, and forget the history about what actually happened with this project. It's immense, right? And you think about, Ramchari, who's the chairman of Wadzchain,
Yeah,
dude. He was Network International, UAE's biggest merchant merchant acquirer in the UAE. He's there for 10 years, whatever it was, right? So like,
yeah.
this is
And
very
he
well
still works at
connected.
Wadzpay. He still works at Wadzpay too.
Yeah, he's still on the books, right?
Yeah, he's still on the
He's a
board. Yeah,
stakeholder. He's a stakeholder. Look, like, anyone can pull off the stakeholder list of WADSPay. You got people in Middle East, you got people in Switzerland, you got people all over the world, you know.
hmm.
But I think it's quite clear that it's a token, a project that has had to keep a low profile, keep it low. I
Oh yeah,
think a lot of the things you've seen, Lee, with the other tokens,
yeah.
it resembles that, right?
I remember Sologenic. I know I repeat myself a lot, but I remember Sologenic at the lows. It was a Reddit back then, 2021, and there was a Reddit post saying that they closed up shop. Everybody ran off with everybody's money. The CEOs are gone, and then they came back with the Nasdaq partnership and the Solo Dex, and it goes to a billion market cap from I think a million market cap.
Mm,
So it's kind of where we're at now, the million market cap, and this happened in 1 month, and I'll never forget that. That was
mm,
the wildest ride. Uh, but that's kind of where I've learned to look into the fear when there's a lot of fear around a crypto, and
mm,
just decide for yourself: is it legitimate, or is this a shakeout? Why would WhatsApp be hiring right now a job posting yesterday, a
mm-hmm,
new one? Like why
mm-hmm,
would that be happening when the prices crash? And I've seen
mm,
that before, with SHX. And I just
yep,
accumulated those lows, and I ended up being successful in this year. It took
mm,
2 or 3 years, but hopefully it doesn't take 2 or 3 years to W chain. But if it does, so be it. But I have a feeling that Anish doesn't want to miss this ISO 2002 bull run, and that's one thing I've heard is it's ISO compliant or compatible as well, because you talk about these different chains, and and it's what is it, chain agnostic to you said to work with like all these different, it could convert you were talking earlier how it can convert like Doge to USDC
mm-hmm,
using AI routing. That's what
mm-hmm.
the AI whiz guide thing is, and that's
Um, I
I
don't
don't
know
know
if
what
the
that
WIS
is.
thing is part of that, but
Yeah.
from what Anish, Anish said, look, it's interoperable with any digital currency. What
Okay.
does that
Yeah.
mean, right? And it's like, okay, there's two options. You can have, let's say, the W bridge now, the multi-validator bridge has got two. Is it two on it, right? ETH and BNB.
Yeah.
In theory, right, you should be looking at the top 20 tokens should be on there, right? So like you got SUI, you got XRP, you got all those bridges there. Plus you have the DEX, right? So you might not have to bridge something, you just might have to swap it, right? So
Yeah.
it's too, the AI will constantly search the best route through the bridge, through the decks. I think those are the main two
Sounds
areas
like
that,
it's an easier version of Uniswap. That's what it sounds like to me, because Uniswap or MetaMask you can swap on there too. Uh,
correct.
yeah.
However, Uniswap is all ETH, right? I don't know if
Uniswap
Uniswap,
is You're right. Uniswap is all ETH.
yeah. So like, W
Yeah.
chain is very different where it says like, okay, I've got baby Doge on BNB and I want to, the baby Doge
Wow.
BNB need to send to, what's an XRP asset? I don't even know XRP very well, but like there must be some meme coins in XRP,
Yeah.
right? So
Solo's built on
yeah,
XRP.
like Solo,
Sologenic.
yeah.
Yeah.
So baby
Yeah.
Doge on BNB to Sologenic XRP. The router
Yeah.
will say, okay, what's the first thing I need to do? Okay, I'll take the baby Doge and BNB, and maybe I'll flip that to I don't know, for example, right, USDC on BNB. So suddenly you flip it to the stablecoin. By the way, all this happens like in milliseconds, whatever.
Yeah.
Now you stuck with USDC and BNB, but you still need to get to um X, what was it? Sologenic XRP, right? So you then
Yeah.
might take this USDC, and then you could bridge it. It just depends what the optimal route is, right? You could bridge it or you could swap it again. Um, until you get to Sologenic. And it just depends liquidity on And don't forget, this is not just WSwap here, right? It's gonna route to, for example, like Uniswap, PancakeSwap, Mexi's exchange. Eventually, I think it'll be all the exchanges, right? So it's just whatever's the optimal route. That's all it cares about.
Yeah,
What's the cheapest
that's
way?
that's interesting. That's going to be probably the first of its kind. I can't think of any other dexes or where you can
No, no,
convert.
dude, because this
That's
is this
yeah,
is this is a blockchain dedicated
yeah,
to
multi-chain.
payments. It's dedicated for payments, right? It's specific for payments. It's not just like, I don't know, Tron or whatever, right? Tron isn't dedicated to like payments. I know they do US USDT transfers, right? But we're talking about like payments here. So WChain is dedicated to that. And there was a piece from a company called Giga and Deverant, who have been highly linked to Wadzchain over the years, right? Now, they made an agreement with the Australian payments platform to offer low-cost routing for fiat only. This is so they're still a bit stuck in the dinosaur age in that sense. And so Giga is saying, look, if you're paying in fiat, you can route it. I think there's like 2 or 3 different ways. We'll give you the cheapest way. WChain is just that, but for digital assets, and of course fiat eventually as well, right? So
Yeah,
it's just about optimizing the routing. It just depends what the users want, and to be honest, Lee, right? You talk about 2 or 3 years. It might take 2 or 3 years for this ecosystem to fully expand to its maximum capacity, right? Where we're talking about, you know, Congo stablecoin on there, right?
yeah,
We're talking, other niche assets
like
or
that.
niche L1s, right? It could be 2 or 3 years down the line. I think by the end of this year, it's not going to be like, I think there'll be a few things on the bridge. The decks will be up and going, so you can do a few things. But I do think,
Yeah,
yeah, for this to be like fully like interoperable system, we're talking global routing. Then yeah, it might take 2 or 3 years to build this up, right? And you've got things to consider like legislation, the law in certain jurisdictions, etc. But I
hmm
think they get there. I think they get there one way or another.
I think this is why they have offices around the world as well to work with the local governments. Um,
Yep.
and also, do you remember that podcast that was out for like a day or two? Then it got deleted, where
Hmm.
Anish was talking about tokenizing an entire economy using
Yep.
W chain. I'm like, wow, how is that going to happen? It only can
Yep.
only happen if it's enterprise grade, and that's what this
100%.
coin is, and that's why XRP is being used by SBI and these it's being used right now in Japan for the banks there, and have the partnerships with big because it's enterprise grade, and that's what this coin is. And
100%. And just to
there's
add
a
there, Lee, right? Just to
yeah,
add this 2 cents here, like think about Congo,
yeah,
right? Let's assume he was talking about Congo because like it seems to me that he was, right? Now Starlink, Elon Musk Starlink are in Congo, right? What they doing there? Well,
yeah,
connectivity, make things, like if it's 5G, whatever, internet connectivity they've got, Starlink will be there. And ultimately W Chain will benefit from Starlink, right? So why do I bring this up is don't be surprised if Starlink end up running a node on WChain.
yeah. I've heard that that nodes are being run right now on the Starlink satellites, and that's why Space Force was introduced to protect our new financial system, the
Mhm.
quantum financial system. So
Yep.
that's
Dude, look, I think the
yeah,
connections that have been made, the
yeah,
partnerships that are there, it's very clear that WChain can come forward here and do very, very well. However, we're coming from a position of seeming so the abyss, right? Like nothing makes sense. Anish is
oh
making
yeah,
spelling mistakes on the AMA.
I saw
The
that.
fudders are winning again. Oh man. It's seemingly gonna, it's like a terrible project, right? But my view, and I think you hold this view as well, Lee, is that this is
Yeah,
orchestrated. This is orchestrated. We know Anish. We know the game. I think we know the game here, Lee, right? I think,
yeah,
and Anish knows that
yeah.
we know. However, he has to
Oh, there
play
are
a
a few
game
people
here,
that
man.
know. Very few know.
Very,
you know.
very few know. But
Yeah.
and I have sympathies because, like, someone coming into WCO, I think, well, this is a mess, right? But if you don't have context of, understanding what's been going on the last, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, I don't blame them, and I don't blame people why they avoid it as it stands now, because it looks like a mess, right? Look at this 400 million thing today, right, with the
Yeah.
token, right? People are saying, oh, why have they, put it back into the supply, all this. I think we both agree here, Lee, that it's just part of the game that they're playing.
Yeah, it's they a lot. How many people do you think got mad when they said the 400 million is going back into circulation and being burned?
Oh,
And they just said,
99%,
I'm
bro.
cutting my losses. So
Yeah,
a
of
lot of people
course.
are upset, but I believe that
Yeah.
they're going to rectify that situation eventually. It's just I don't trust. I've actually learned that negative news at lows is bullish. You know,
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We just recently saw that with ZBCN when they were calling that a scam at three zeros and a seven, and it shaved off a zero and went to 008. So that
Mm.
was an easy 10x, and I was lucky enough to get in on that. But I didn't, but that's what I see with many cryptos. But do I believe the ROI is going to be way greater here, given the fear where we're at now and the low market cap, and also I think Extra Hansen in the chat was saying that, man, dexes are all about 250 million market cap. So that's what is that, a 200x? Or possibly.
Yeah, easy, man. Easy.
Yeah, so I'm not.
Easy.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we're speculation here, not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just speculating as an investor, and I'm down on this asset, like most investors are in this asset. But I've only made big money on coins that I was down on. It's a weird space, crypto, especially with the low caps.
Mm.
But yeah, just there's a lot going on in the background, and like you say, with the news coming together, everything's saying like, oh, that's the requirement for W chain. Next he's releasing all this news, and like, wow, this is W chain. Like, it's the only answer for this.
Yeah, dude,
Like,
like,
why is that
a really
happening now?
I think a really good
Yeah,
example here, right, is why have
yeah,
WChain partnered with WildGo, right?
yeah,
WildGo, they had their TGE yesterday. They're Solana based. Why a WChain, partnering with a token based on Solana? On the face of it, you think this doesn't make any sense. But when you think about it and you start to dig around and actually, put your thinking cap on what's going on, it's a signal that's saying, hey, WChain is going to be bridging, swapping, settling Solana based assets, right? And to me, this is just the start. I think Solana comes, it has to. Otherwise, why are they partnering with WildGo, right? It doesn't make any sense, right?
yeah,
So, that's the clear signal. Yeah, I think with WChain, you really have to read through the lines. You can't take anything on face value. You really can't, especially where the team is. They probably, my own view is that, they have pressures from above. You can't do this, you have to do that. You can do this, you can't do that. And they're juggling everyone. Like Anish is like having to juggle the community, the wayfinders, the powers that be above him, right? Be it
hmm,
regulators, right? Be it investors, right? Whoever. This guy's like an octopus with 8 arms trying to juggle something, right? He's so I don't blame them. And as such, like when news comes out about WChain, you can't take it on face value. You have to read between the lines, and yes, you gotta have you gotta have some like historical context as well, right?
yeah,
But for me, the wild go at first. I remember, I think you said it as well. It was like, what's this scammy project? But actually, you do some digging.
yeah,
WildGo was created by one of the Ethereum founders,
yeah.
right?
One of the
So
early
when
Ethereum
you
investors. Yeah,
one of the early Ethereum founders. So when
yeah,
you realize that, you think, "Whoa, hold on a minute!" And suddenly, WildGo are partnering with all these interesting American companies, very great list, strong companies.
And what's funny,
Why are
weren't they based in
WildGo?
New York, New York? The founder.
Yeah,
So that's New York, New
New
York.
York,
That's
New York,
Jim. Jim is also in New York, New York.
Gem
And
Global,
yeah, there's
Nasdaq, New
Nasdaq's New
York,
York, New York. Yeah, and also
and I think even
if you Google Wadzchain New York, Nasdaq office pops up. So it's kind of
Mhm.
interesting. Yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry cutting you
um,
off, man. You're flowing.
Yeah, no, it's just like
Yeah.
it's just that you can't take things on face value, and
Yeah.
But I know that's tough because you come in and you're invested, you're excited, you're hyped, but then you get this like odd news and you're thinking, "Yeah, what is this? I'm out, and people give up. And how many people have given up, right? So but there's a signal to people there if you how should I put it, like if you read between the lines or if you have the context, you realize that actually what they're building is something absolutely massive. But it doesn't appear that way, right? It appears like what the fuck? This is just a shit project, shit team, nothing makes sense. But yeah, ultimately, dude, this is why, most people don't make it, right? And I'm not saying we're gonna make it. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but I'm saying that people will just sell out because of like one bit of news. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. Like, have you considered what happened here, 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 and the context and the background and all the, take it holistically? But it's very easy for people to lose hope just on one sentence.
Yeah.
One sentence has ruined everything. Oh man, I'm out. But it with W chain, yeah, man. I don't know how else to put it, but like you can't take anything on face value.
That's
Got
true.
to read between the lines.
Yeah. One thing that kind of keeps coming to my mind. Remember how BitTrue had that post ready to go, like revolutionary hybrid chain, W chain,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
posted it, and then they took it down. Like, why did they take it down like an hour later? You think like, oh, not we're not ready yet, guys. You can't do that.
Mm.
So it's like they're not ready to market this thing yet.
No, no,
Uh,
no. Exactly,
yeah,
Lee. Exactly. They've not
yeah,
been. I'll be the first to admit. I thought that last year when they said, "Look, commercial launch L1 coming March, whatever it was." I'm not tech savvy, so naivety on my part, thinking, oh great, they're going to be up and running, transactions flowing. But no, it was literally like, here's the L1, do some token transfer, and that's about it. And they've had to phase it up, build up, probably because, like I said before, the front end isn't ready. The regulations haven't been ready. So they've kind of had to like, okay, we've got this structure here, we've got to build it up. I think they were supposed to release some like liquidity stuff back in March for the decks. Something didn't happen, right? Delays, and
yeah.
it probably frustrates people even more. But they've I don't blame them for what they've done because it's like they could only they're dependent on the L1s, the dexes being really efficient and ready. Because if BNB was super expensive, if ETH was super expensive, how's it going to work? It just wouldn't. So it's
Hmm.
you got to think about it. The Pectro upgrade, I think, for ETH, the Pectra upgrade happened. There was obviously we've got the hard fork and BNB coming up, but there was one before. I forgot that was it the Maxwell or this one's coming up.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
why are all these dexes? Sorry, why are these L1s slashing their fees? All of a sudden, I remember
yeah,
people
yeah,
posting on other groups I'm on. They're like, "Why is ETH so cheap now?" There was no real answer for it, right? It was just like, oh, they just decided to cut the fees. Well, from my perspective, it's because they're getting ready for the time when WChain comes, and WChain is going to be routing value across, the global ecosystem. If it's expensive, they're not going to pick you. Like, why
yeah.
would,
Either
why are you going to?
adapt or die, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
hundred
So yeah,
percent, 100%.
yeah.
No one's been able to answer this question, Lee, about why all of a sudden, like BNB slash fees, they're doing two hard forks, Pectra upgrade, slash the fees. There's, oh, it's just happened. It's like, oh, okay. But there's a reason for it, man. There's always a reason for it, especially in crypto, right? Like, it's still crypto is still in its infancy, right? And so there's reasons why things happen. It's just like people can't explain it initially. Even the OGs that have been in the game. I've been in Telegram groups like, oh, ETH fees are down. I was like, oh, I don't know why. They don't know
Yeah.
about WChain. They don't know what's coming. And like I said, the router, if your L1 is expensive, right? If your Dex is expensive, whatever, the router just ain't gonna pick you. Like you said, adapt and you have a chance
Adapt
of
or get
being
left behind.
selected.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, hundred
yeah.
percent. 100%. So yeah,
That's interesting. I think ETH went from proof of work to proof of stake. Something like that. That's where like they used to mine it, for rewards, but now it's kind of like XRP. That's all. Isn't that proof of stake? Something like it's just kind of like that's why the liquidity pools give it value and everything. That's what gives a lot of these cryptos value. Like that's why the stable coins coming out for W chain as well. so they can use it on the decks. I know I'm hopping subjects here, but I could see the value in W Chain, given that what it can do, and I think the Dex is going to be pretty awesome when it comes out, and it's going to attract a lot of people. And I've even compared it to what is it, 1inch Crypto? There's another crypto debit card company, but it can only use it in certain countries. But oh, you got disconnected. They don't want to talk to WCO. They keep kicking my friend off here. Let me see if I can get him again. But yeah, 1inch Crypto is about a 300 million market cap currently, and that's another crypto debit card company. Hold on, sorry, I was trying to. There we go. There we go. You found it. Good. Yeah. We were just talking about. I started talking about another coin similar with the crypto debit cards, and it's like a 300 million market cap, and but the way this one works, it's you can put any cryptos on this debit card and pay for it with the W chain you running the back end. I think you know all
I
about that.
mean,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
the question, that is open, which is, what eligible tokens will be available on the Winity card, right? Because
Yeah.
you said that, right? Any token, but hey, we got to have the bridge in place, right? The bridge
That's
has to have all these L1s, right? The deck. So I think it will still be my own view, right? Is that it will start off with a selection, and then build out from there. I think they get Solana. I think it seems Solana's imminent just because of the Wild Go connection, right? It just makes sense they bridge Solana. There's a lot of effort by even TradFi going into
yeah.
Solana, right? So that just makes a bit sense to me. And then of course, BNB, ETH, right? You know, XRP question mark. So there's a question around it because we have to keep an eye on what they release on the bridge. Because if, for example, if Sui isn't on that bridge, then it kind of says, hey, we're not gonna do Sui based assets yet, right? So yeah, let's see. Oh, by the way, I just want to. Can you hear me, Lee? By the way,
Yeah. Yeah.
am I
Sorry, I
still
just
there?
got a text. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
want to quickly divert to Telegram, right? Because Telegram P2P. Now, why am I bringing this up? Is because Mexi is a strategic investor in Telegram, and if you look at Mexi's posts, they're pushing Telegram, the open network, massively. I think there was $1 million reward for stuff. They're really pushing it hard. Why? Really, really pushing it hard, and I think this is great because Mexi clearly believe in W chain. From where I'm sitting, right? Mexi clearly believe in W chain, and they believe in Telegram, the open network. And we see the higher ups at Telegram posting about, hey, we're gonna go into payments. And you think, oh, here we go. This is perfect because let's not forget, Amit from Wadzchain last year was on a conference with JP Morgan. I forget which conference it was, but he was there with JP Morgan, some other TradFi, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm really excited by what's going to come with P2P, all this stuff, right?" So, to me, this is like keep your eyes peeled on this because, personally, like I said, I think there's something going on with Telegram P2P payments now. Well, I know there is something going on with Telegram P2P payments. They've said it. However, they've not said what it is. Now, what's the most cutting edge thing you can do in payments? It's, hey, pay for anything with anything, right? Because how can you get better than that,
Yeah.
right? So to me, I think keep an eye on Telegram. What Mexi and Telegram are doing, keep an eye on that. I think something big's coming there.
That's interesting. It's just like so you can kind of like cash up on Telegram, but it's going to be running through W chain. Something
Yeah, it would
similar.
be
Yeah.
like, I'm a user on Telegram, you're a user, there'll be a payments function.
Yeah.
Um, you know, oh, I've got Doge, I want to send Lee, I want to send him whatever it might be. I want to send him baby Doge on BNB, right? So yeah, this is
So
where
a way to
WChain comes in.
monetize the process, like an easier process. Wow.
Yeah, 100%. And by the way, all this conversation going on around, payments, it comes at a time when, WhatsApp are going into it, Meta. Everyone's all the
Right.
TradFi people. Oh, we want stablecoin,
PayPal.
stablecoin,
Yeah,
stablecoin.
PayPal's in it already. Yeah.
PayPal. Okay, this is
Yeah.
something else, which is we're seeing a lot of stable coins go onto L1s. USDC went on XRP. PYUSD went on Stellar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you're going to get a situation where, let's say you have top 20 stable coins, right? Each of these stable coins will appear on, say, the top 20, 30 L1s, right? So USD1, for example, is a good one, but they're suddenly on Tron, right?
Yeah.
Why are they doing this? Again, it's for the freedom of choice for people. Yeah. So we say, oh, do I want my PYUSD on Stellar? Do I want it on
I want to stop you at
XRP?
Tron real quick because I remember
Yeah.
they wanted a Tron developer
Mm.
like a year ago or so.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
why did they need why did Wadzchain need a Tron guy? Like fluent in
Well,
Tron, you know?
Lee,
So
we
that's
know
just why.
because
Yeah.
WhatsPay 2.0, which is WhatsPay's product, right, before WChain, right? So you had WhatsPay 1.0, you got WhatsPay 2.0, which is still live now, as I understand it.
Yeah.
That's already working with Tron, working with Avalanche. I forget which other L1s it spoke, but definitely Avalanche Tron was part of that. Um, so yeah, WChain is an extension. Well, I mean, look, USDT payments. I think it's some crazy number that's on Tron. It's like over 50%, right? So it just it's a no-brainer that Tron, with that Singapore connection, etc. It just makes sense that W can eventually integrate Tron. For me
Yeah.
personally, I think top 20, top 30 will all be going through W chain. We'll all
That was the banana reference, by the way. Remember, it's cheaper than
Oh
a
yeah, of
banana.
course.
because Justin
Satya,
Sun
right? Satya
because Justin
with
Sun
a
bought the banana with the tape on it, the modern art for millions of dollars.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so that's probably a what is it, giving notoriety to that, just subtle notoriety. They speak in code a lot. That's one thing that I'm
Yes.
drawn to because I've listened to a lot of Waters Above, and he's into numerology as well. He's a successful investor, and I don't know if you want to get into the esoteric, but I'm digging the esoteric.
Let's do it, Lee. Let's do it. I'm up for that, man. Let's
So
go for it.
and if you go to the numerology calculator, you can Google it. Numerology
Mm,
calculator. You type in Watts Pay, it's 33 in numerology, and then if you type in Watts Chain, it's also 33 in numerology.
mhm.
Chaldean and Pythagoras numerology. So I think whoever set this up is usually the high powers, the billionaires that run this country, or know how this reality works with numbers as well. And even CZ from Binance, I think you sent me a post not too long ago, and his license plate is 888, which is the
Yes.
number of abundance. And
Yep.
this is how these the real high power, the people that pull the strings in this world, in this reality, they know about these numbers and angel numbers, so to speak. And I've tracked the wallets, and I noticed one wallet selling, or they do. I think I've noticed that they deposit 11, 11, 11, like five 11s in a row, 11,000,000,
Mm,
111,000, 111. I saw that on
mm,
Mexi and Bitrue. Like, why is this wallet sending that exact amount over and over, and then
mm,
withdrawing that amount? I guess it's wash trading to put volume on these exchanges or something. I don't know. Maybe it could be for wallet
mm.
allotment for the partners, because we see a lot of there are lots of transactions going on. Uh, it's from
Yep.
these different wallets, and then we even have the wallet. I just recently saw this. It's the W Chain ecosystem wallet. It has 333.33. It's like seven threes in a
Mm,
row, and these are basically 33 is the master number of the universe, and it means success and all these good things. So, and also the chain ID is for W chain. If you type it in, if you create your coin on MetaMask, the chain ID is 171717, which is 888.
mhm,
So
mhm,
I know that I may sound crazy, but like
mhm,
to me, like this is interesting, and like wow, maybe this is confirming we're on the correct path. And if you even type these numbers into ChatGPT, ChatGPT says those are interesting numbers. Those are numbers that confirm you're on the right path to success and abundance. Maybe the creators of this coin are fluent or are just numerology guys. Maybe they created it like this. I don't know, but it's just I find it interesting. That's just
Yeah,
another. It's just another aspect of this thing that's interesting. Makes it interesting to me. Um,
100%.
yeah.
I think that's it's a lot there, Lee. But I think
Yeah.
we could start with like the Winity logo,
Oh yeah, yeah.
infinity,
Infinity. That's another three
and
three as well. Yeah.
which is the 8, the 3 3.
Yeah.
With just like, by the way, Pancake Swap all of a sudden have got their infinity logo there, right? What's that about, right? So
Uh,
look, I think I agree with you, Lee. I think the people behind W Chain, Anish is the front guy. Yeah, and you could
yeah.
say maybe Ram Chowry is also the front guy, but he's a bit more senior. But Anish is clearly the front guy,
Yeah.
and he's clearly backed by very powerful people. We know,
He even
we
liked my
can see on the
post.
stick.
Sorry, he even liked my post when I was talking about numerology and W chain. I'm like, why did he like this?
Yeah,
Anyway,
look, Lee. There's an old saying. The
yeah,
old saying is, millionaires. What is it? Millionaires don't look at astrology, but billionaires do.
yeah. JP Morgan said that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
JP Morgan. Boom. There you go. Right.
yeah,
So the people behind W Chain, they're setting up a global system, interoperable system. Of course, it's going to go into the billions for sure, no doubt. And so
yeah,
they know. For me, right? I think they know exactly what they're doing. They're playing with retail. I'm not saying Anish is. I'm saying he's caught in the middle. Yeah.
hmm
And so I think, as you pointed out, he liked your post, and I think Anish is tapped into the esoteric. I think he's very tapped in, but no, retail doesn't like that. If you start going to retail, talking about esoteric stuff, it's just not gonna fly,
yeah.
right? So it doesn't work that way. So
A few of the awake are into it, But with me and you, and there are a handful of us in the crypto community that are awake to it. That's what's cool about the crypto community, And I met some of my best friends in the space, and
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
a
absolutely.
lot of
And
people are just driven and have a different vision um, for opportunity, and that's one thing you have as well is your vision, to look through the noise and be able to see what's actually going on with this company. Um, how it's going to be chain interoperable and can handle everything. It's really interesting. I didn't mean to cut you off, man. You're giving
no,
good
no,
thoughts.
it's fine.
I'm learning a lot, so I
It's
appreciate.
fine.
Yeah.
I'm just you know, yeah. When it comes to esoteric, there's a lot to factor.
Oh yeah. Are you still there? I think it got cut off again. Hope you guys are hanging.
They
Oh,
need.
there we are. You still connected?
Hey, sorry, did I lose you there? Did I
No, I
lose you
think
there?
you got. No, no. I thought I lost you, man. I thought I lost you.
Yeah, sorry. I was just
I
saying,
think I
like,
did.
the average investor, they don't care about esoteric stuff. But I think with W Chain, if you don't have that, if you don't give some attention to the esoteric, you just leave, and that's what people have done. And then, but one thing to comment, Lee, is that there's a lot of people that sold out on WTK because of following particular people, whatever. However, they still linger around this token.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, right? And there's a few names. I mean, there's a list of them, right? There's like double digits, probably triple digits that sold WTK lows
Yeah.
and still linger around this token.
hmm
There's something about that that should be a signal to people to say, hey, there's something about this token that will infuriate you. It's quite clear that it will do that. However, there's something magical here with this token, and it might sound crazy, but
I believe you. Yeah. I
yeah,
believe.
I know because
Yeah.
I know you see it, Lee. I know you
Yeah.
see it, but for the 4 or 5 other people that are on this call, I don't know if they see it, but there is something about this token that keeps people, even after they've sold it, even whatever, bygones be bygones, they still come back. Why?
The
You,
energy
you
as
know
well.
because the energy, because they know what's being built. It's almost like the subconscious knows what's coming, but their egos are just like in the way. Like, oh, fucking shit token. I'm gonna just comment really negatively about this token. And it's like what?
So you're saying there's a lot
But
of passionate people about this crypto. Either you love it or hate it. So
yes,
a lot of
but what
people. Yeah, yeah,
my point is, you can love it, you can hate it, but you still come back.
yeah.
Why? Why are people coming back?
I think it's a
You
ploy to
know?
keep the community together and inadvertently. Um,
Mm,
that's why that group exists. The Fud Pit exists, and also we even have the Wayfinders keeping the positive community together. Um, but they don't give the Wayfinders don't have much to say. But we figured it out. With the help of Chat GPT and the news, we watching the news closely and watching
mm-hmm,
what the company's doing. They're hiring right now, so it's like
mm-hmm.
you know it, it's a way to keep the community together because but at the same time it's there's energy within the community, so to speak. It's not
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of energy of the community with a lot of people awake to
But
what's going on in
I
this.
think also, Lee's,
Yeah,
because it's the value proposition, right? Do people really understand what it means to be able to root value at a very cheap cost globally? So for example, the guy in Bolivia that wants to send money to, let's say, Mongolia, yeah, in the
yeah,
current system, my God, he's probably got to wait 4 or 5 days. We said before, right, down 20% or whatever, lost 20%. The value proposition around this is just like, it's not even about crypto at that point. It's just about like helping average Joes day to day get more money in their pocket. Right. And that's like a political thing. It's like a social thing. There's more to it, right? Than just, oh, I'm gonna buy this token and go up and down and that's it. There's a lot more to this.
yeah. I agree with you. It's interesting, especially everything
And
we
so I think
covered.
that's why
Yeah,
I think that's why people keep coming back, because like deep down they know that even though they can't see it, it's not obvious at all. But the value proposition, pay for anything with anything, seamlessly cheap. I think WChain at the bottom of the website, it says like, we guarantee, efficiency, security, and whatever it is, right? Because they need those elements to, benefit people, for example, in the Congo,
yeah,
right? Where suddenly, people, or even like probably a good one in the US, how much do people lose sending remittance money to Philippines, to wherever outside the US, man? It must be in the billions, right? Where it's been gobbled up by the middleman. And
yeah,
all of a sudden, WChain is saying, hey, you can keep that 5%. Maybe you have to give up 0.1, 0.2%, whatever it might be, right? But you're certainly not going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever crazy numbers going to be. So I think this is also why people keep coming back. There's something about this project. There is no project that's had this much FUDLY. One
oh yeah.
million market cap. It doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. But yeah. Sorry, I've
No,
been
I mean, you're
rambling a
talking
bit
about
there.
FUD. I'm a FUD. I'm comfortable with chasing FUD down with cryptos. Even though I'm down a ton of money on this crypto, I'm still comfortable and I know that it's going to rebound. And given the company growth during this price crash that's been going on the past 6 months or so. I know the past year, ever
Mm,
since the WTK fiasco, which even I
mm.
remember you told me a while back that Anish leaked that WTK was always a test token. You know,
That is on public record. That's you can
yeah,
find that interview. I forget the company. I've got the link. You can find that, and he does
wow,
say
yeah. He says it's a test
WTK is a
token.
test token.
Yeah,
And I found that after I'd invested, like before, after I'd found out about it.
10 cents.
Well,
Or no,
no, I mean, I think whenever I joined,
yeah,
I found it, and it was like, guys, listen, people didn't like it, but the reality is that's what it was. It was in theory, I would say at this stage, WCO is still in its test phase. WCO isn't, it's in its full glory yet
yeah,
by any means, nowhere near. In fact, right at the minute, you could say that you know WChain is just moving tokens around. That's all it's doing at the minute. There's no bridging. There's no anything doing the W swap. There's nothing going on, right? So
Yeah.
I still say that WCO is still a test token at this stage. Doesn't It's not going to be, right? It's got a vision, it's got a direction, but for now it.
Are we still connected? I think you lost connection for a second. I appreciate everybody listening, hanging out with us. We him and I talk about this stuff all the time, and I just wanted to share some information that. Let me see if I can get him to speak again. Uh, what's up, Michael? Good to see you guys, Wchain guys here. Uh, but yeah, it's just, I'll just talk a little bit. So yeah, I've comfortable chasing the fear down in cryptos. I've been successful in the past with mini cryptos, and another thing about Wchain to me is the FUD is to me is 2018 borrowed Cardano FUD, where they showed him partying with scammers and clubs, and with Charles Hoskinson, and I think it was 3 cents back then. Cardano went to $3 a year later, 2 years later, and yeah, I'll just never forget that. And yeah, so that's just kind of what draws me as an investor to this crypto. I just love chasing the fear down in cryptos. Let's see if I can get our friend Giga back up here. Let's see if I can get him. Thank you guys for hanging out. There's not much news going on with Wchain, so it's just feels good to hang out here. Oh, we can't get text. I think we're gonna call it. We're gonna call it here, man. Thank you for hanging out. Thanks everybody, and we're gonna probably do another one of these soon. Thank you all. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.